The big meeting room on the space station was full of strange creatures from different worlds. They all sat around a huge table made of some kind of blue metal that glowed softly. Senator Vextar looked at the papers in front of him and made a sound like a snake laughing. His blue skin had dark spots that changed color when he was amused. "So these humans want to join us," he said to the other senators. "Look at their ships. They are so small and weak. My pet could probably destroy one with its claws." The other aliens around the table made various sounds of agreement. Senator Cothran waved his tentacles in the air, which was how his people showed they were happy about something. "Their biggest warship is smaller than our garbage collectors," he said through his translator device. Commander Thulvas stood near the big window that showed the stars outside. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Each arm held a different report about Earth. "The humans have been in space for less than 200 years, he said. "Most species take at least 1,000 years to develop proper space travel." "That proves they are not very smart," said Senator Vextar. "Smart species learn faster." But Commander Thulvos was not so sure. He had read all the reports about Earth very carefully. Something felt different about these humans, though he could not say what it was. Their military was small, yes. Their ships were simple, yes. But there was something in the way they solved problems that made him think not far away on Earth, in a small town called Cedar Falls. Jake Morrison was working in his garage. He had grease on his hands and tools scattered everywhere. Jake fixed cars and trucks for people in town, but today he was doing something different. He was looking at plans for alien spaceship engines that the government had put on the internet for everyone to see. "This is interesting," Jake said to himself as he studied the drawings. "If I change this part here and add this piece from an old truck engine, I bet I could make it work better." Jake did not know that what he was doing was supposed to be impossible. In every other world in the galaxy, only special government scientists worked on spaceship engines. Normal people like Jake were not allowed to even see the plans, let alone try to improve them. In the city of Portland, Lisa Wang was sitting at her computer in her small apartment. She was a programmer who made software for companies, but right now she was working on something just for fun. The aliens had shared some basic information about how their computers worked, and Lisa thought it would be cool to write a program that could talk to alien computers. "Just need to figure out how their language works," she said as she typed code on her keyboard. Lisa had stayed up late for 3 nights working on this project. She did not know that the alien computer language was considered very hard to learn. Most alien species needed special schools that took years to teach people how to use it. Back on the space station, the evaluation team was getting ready to visit Earth. Lieutenant Krendel was packing special equipment to test human military strength. He was Commander Thulvas' helper, and he was very good at measuring how strong different species were in war. "Sir, should we bring the advanced scanning equipment?" Lieutenant Krendel asked. "No," said Commander Thulvas. "A basic equipment will be enough. From what I can see, these humans are not very advanced." The truth was that Commander Thulvas wanted to get this evaluation done quickly. He had many other important things to do, and spending time on a weak species like humans seemed like a waste of time. The Galactic Senate had rules that said every species had to be tested before they could join. But everyone knew this was just a formality. Senator Vextar had already decided that humans would be given a low-level membership. They would be allowed to trade with other species and visit some space stations, but they would not be allowed to vote on important decisions or have access to advanced technology. It was the same deal that was given to all the weak species. They seem peaceful enough, Senator Vextar had said in an earlier meeting, and their planet has some resources we can use, but they are clearly not ready for full membership. What none of the aliens understood was that humans were very different from other species. While other species had governments that controlled all the important technology and knowledge, humans shared everything freely. When the government put alien technology information on the internet, millions of humans had downloaded it within hours. In laboratories and universities, scientists were studying the alien technology, but also in garages and basements in spare bedrooms. Ordinary people were looking at the same information and thinking of new ideas. Jake Morrison was just one of thousands of people who were trying to improve alien technology in their free time. The aliens had never seen anything like this before. In their worlds, if someone wanted to learn about spaceship engines, they had to go to special schools and get permission from the government. The idea that a person who fixed cars could also understand spaceship engines was completely strange. To them, Dr. Amy Chun was a geology teacher at the University of Colorado. She taught students about rocks and earthquakes, but she had also been studying the alien mineral reports. Amy had some ideas about how to find better materials for spaceship construction, and she had been sharing these ideas with her students and with other scientists around the world. The aliens are missing something important, Amy told her class. One day, they think these crystals are only good for energy storage, but I think they could also be used to make ships stronger. None of the aliens knew about Dr. Amy Chun or her ideas. They were not watching what human teachers and students were doing. They were only looking at official government reports and military information. This was their first big mistake. The second mistake was thinking that humans were just like every other species they had met. They assumed that human society worked the same way as alien societies, with clear divisions between military people and civilian people, between smart people and regular people, between those who were allowed to know important things and those who were not. But humans had never worked that way. Throughout their history, the best ideas had often come from unexpected places. The person who invented the airplane had been bicycle mechanics. The person who started the computer revolution had worked in a garage. Humans had always believed that anyone could have a good idea, and they had built their society around sharing knowledge and letting people experiment. As the alien evaluation team prepared to visit Earth, they thought they knew what they would find. They expected to see a small military, simple technology, and a population that knew very little about science or engineering. They thought the evaluation would be quick and easy. They had no idea that they were about to discover something that would change everything they thought they knew about intelligence, technology, and the potential of different species. The moment of realization was still weeks away, but it was coming. And when it arrived, it would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Senate. The alien ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. They were huge and silver, moving slowly through the clouds like giant metal fish. Commander Tholvos stood on the bridge of the main ship, looking down at the blue and green planet. Below, begin the evaluation, he told his crew. First test is emergency response capability. Down on Earth, General Patricia Hayes was waiting at the military base. She was a short woman with gray hair and a serious face. She had been in the military for 30 years and had seen many different kinds of training exercises. The aliens want to see how fast we can respond to a space emergency, she told her staff. We have prepared a simulation of an asteroid heading toward Earth. Our job is to show them our standard military response. But General Hayes had made one small mistake. She had announced the exercise on the military's public information website, thinking that only military people would care about it. She did not know that millions of ordinary people around the world were very interested in anything involving aliens and space. Within 2 hours of the announcement, the exercise was trending. On social media, people were sharing the information, discussing it, and asking questions. Amateur astronomers were getting excited about the chance to participate in something real. Dr. Amy Chun was grading papers in her office when her phone started buzzing with messages. Students were texting her about the asteroid simulation. "Professor Chun, did you see the news about the space exercise?" One message said. "Can we help with the calculations?" Amy looked at the official announcement and felt her excitement growing. This was exactly the kind of problem she loved to solve. She immediately sent messages to her students and to other geology professors around the world. "Anyone want to work on some asteroid trajectory calculations for fun?" she wrote. Meanwhile, in Phoenix, Arizona, teenager Kevin Martinez was supposed to be doing his homework. Instead, he was writing a computer program to simulate asteroid impacts. Kevin was 17 years old and had learned programming by watching videos on the internet. He thought the asteroid exercise sounded like an interesting challenge. "If I can get the right data about the asteroid's size and speed, I can predict exactly where it will hit," Kevin said to his computer screen as he typed code. He had no idea that what he was doing was supposed to be very difficult work that only professional scientists could do. On the alien ship, Lieutenant Krendel was watching Earth's internet activity with growing confusion. His equipment was designed to monitor military communications, but it was also picking up millions of civilian messages about the asteroid exercise. "Sir," he said to Commander Thulvas, "the humans appear to be having some kind of communication malfunction. Their civilian networks are broadcasting military exercise information." Commander Thulvas looked at the data. In his experience, military exercises were secret. Only trained soldiers and government officials were supposed to know about them. The idea that ordinary people would be discussing military matters was very strange. "Perhaps their security is not very good," he said. "Continue monitoring their official military channels." But the aliens were looking in the wrong place. While they watched the military's official communications, the real action was happening in chat rooms, forums, and social media platforms. Bob Taylor was a retired engineer who lived in a small house in Nebraska. He had worked for an airplane company for 40 years before retiring. Now he spent his time building things in his garage workshop. When he heard about the asteroid exercise, Bob decided to design a better deflection system. "The military's plan is okay," Bob said to his neighbor Jim, who had come over to see what Bob was working on. "But I think there's a simpler way to push the asteroid off course." Bob had a 3D printer that he had bought with his retirement money. He used it to make small models of his ideas. Within 6 hours, he had designed and printed a scale model of an improved asteroid deflection device. Then he took pictures of it and posted them on an engineering forum. "Here's my idea for the asteroid problem," Bob wrote. "The files are attached if anyone wants to improve the design." Within minutes, other engineers and hobbyists around the world were downloading Bob's design and suggesting improvements. A woman in Germany pointed out a way to make it more efficient. A college student in Japan found a way to make it cheaper to build. A retired teacher in Australia suggested using different materials. The aliens watching from space had never seen anything like this. In their societies, if someone had an idea for improving military equipment, they had to submit it through official channels. It would be reviewed by committees and tested by government scientists. The process took months or years, but the humans were improving Bob's design in real time. Every few minutes, someone would post a new version that was better than the last. By the end of the day, the design had been improved by dozens of different people from around the world. Ruth Adams was a retired librarian who lived in a small town in Texas. She had always been good at organizing information and solving problems. When she heard about the asteroid exercise, she started coordinating with other retired people in her area. "We may not be young anymore," Ruth told her friend Mary, "but we still have working brains. Let's see if we can help. Ruth created a group on social media for retired people who wanted to contribute to the asteroid problem. Within hours, she had over 500 members. There were retired teachers, engineers, scientists, and people from many other professions. You know what? Ruth said to the group. We have a lot of experience between us. Let's organize our knowledge and see what we can figure out. The group started working like a huge distributed brain. Each person contributed what they knew best. The retired teachers helped explain complex concepts to others. The retired engineers worked on technical problems. The retired scientists checked the mathematics. On the alien ship, Lieutenant Krendel was becoming more and more confused. His monitoring equipment was showing thousands of humans working on the asteroid problem, but none of them were military personnel. Sir, he said to Commander Thulvos, I think there may be an error in our understanding of human military structure. It appears that their entire population is participating in this exercise. Commander Thulvos looked at the data more carefully. In his world, military exercises involved only military people. Civilians were not allowed to participate or even know about them. The idea that ordinary people could contribute to military planning was completely foreign to him. Perhaps they are all military, he suggested. Maybe humans do not distinguish between soldiers and civilians the way we do. But that was not right. Either the aliens could see that the people participating in the exercise had regular jobs. There were teachers, store clerks, farmers, and students. There were children and elderly people. There were people who had never been in the military. At all. Maria Rodriguez was a traffic engineer in Chicago. Her job was to design traffic lights and road systems to help cars move efficiently through the city. When she heard about the asteroid exercise, she started thinking about it like a traffic problem. If an asteroid is coming toward Earth, it's like a really big traffic jam in space, Maria said to her coworker. We need to find a way to redirect the traffic. Maria used the same software she used for planning city traffic to model the asteroid's path through space. She treated the asteroid like a car that needed to be redirected to a different route. Her solution was simple and elegant, and it worked perfectly. She posted her traffic-based solution on the internet, and other traffic engineers around the world started using similar approaches. Soon, there were dozens of different routing solutions for the asteroid problem, all based on principles from managing city traffic. The aliens were amazed. They had never thought of using traffic management principles for space navigation. In their society, traffic engineers worked on traffic problems, and space navigators worked on space problems. The idea that knowledge from one field could be applied to another field was revolutionary. As the exercise continued, more and more humans joined in. Ham radio operators helped coordinate communications between different groups. Amateur astronomers provided detailed observations of the simulated asteroid. Computer programmers wrote software to help analyze the data. By the end of the first day, over 10,000 humans were actively participating in the asteroid exercise. They were not organized by any government or military structure. They had organized themselves through the internet, working together because they found the problem interesting and wanted to help. The aliens realized that they had completely misunderstood human society. These people were not soldiers or government officials. They were ordinary civilians who had decided to contribute their knowledge and skills to solving a problem. And the most surprising thing was that their solutions were often better than what the military had planned. The distributed intelligence of thousands of people working together was producing innovations that no single military team could have developed. Commander Thulvos looked at the data streaming in from Earth and felt a strange feeling in his stomach. For the first time in his long career, he was beginning to suspect that his assumptions about human capabilities might be completely wrong. 3 weeks after the asteroid exercise, Commander Thulvos was still thinking about what he had seen. The humans had solved the problem too easily, and too many ordinary people had been involved. He needed to understand how human technology actually worked. "I want to see their manufacturing facilities," he told General Hayes during a meeting at the military base. "Show me where humans build their advanced technology." General Hayes looked a bit uncomfortable. "Well, sir, that's a bit complicated. We can show you our military factories, but a lot of our innovation actually happens in other places." "Other places?" Commander Thulvos asked. His translator device made a small beeping sound as it tried to process the concept. "Yes, sir. In private workshops, universities, and well, garages." The alien commander's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "Garages? Are those specialized research facilities?" "Not exactly," General Hayes said. "Let me show you." An hour later, Commander Thulvos and Lieutenant Crendel were standing in Pete Johnson's garage in Riverside, California. The garage was attached to a normal house in a normal neighborhood. There were tools everywhere, half-finished projects on every surface, and a strange humming sound coming from the corner. Pete Johnson was a man in his 50s with gray hair and hands that were permanently stained with grease. He had worked for the Navy for 20 years, fixing ship engines. Now he was retired and spent his time building things for fun. "Sorry about the mess," Pete said as he cleared some tools off a workbench. "I wasn't expecting visitors." Commander Thulvos was staring at the device in the corner that was making the humming sound. It was about the size of a refrigerator, built from what looked like spare parts and held together with metal clamps. But the readings on Lieutenant Crendel's scanner were showing something impossible. "That device is generating a gravitational field," Lieutenant Crendel whispered to his commander. "But that's Class 7 technology. Only the most advanced species in the galaxy can build gravitational field generators." "Pete," General Hayes said, "can you explain to our visitors what you built here?" Pete wiped his hands on an old rag and walked over to the humming device. "Oh, this old thing? I found the technical specifications in those files you folks released a few months ago. Took me about 6 months to figure out how to build it with parts from the hardware store." "Hardware store?" Commander Thulvos asked. "Yeah, you know, the place where you buy screws and wire and stuff. I had to order some special components online, but most of it came from Joe's Hardware down the street." The alien commander felt dizzy. In his world, gravitational field generators were built in specialized facilities by teams of scientists with advanced degrees. The idea that someone could build one in their garage using parts from a store was completely impossible. "How did you learn to build this?" Lieutenant Crendel asked. "YouTube, mostly," Pete said. "And I posted questions on some forums when I got stuck. There's this great community of people who like to build stuff. We help each other out." Pete pulled out a tablet computer and showed them a website. "See, here's the forum where I posted my first design. And here's where other people suggested improvements. This guy in Sweden figured out how to make it more efficient. This lady in Brazil found a way to make it safer." Commander Thulvos looked at the website and saw dozens of people sharing technical information about gravitational field generators. They were discussing complex physics concepts as if they were talking about cooking recipes. "Are these people all scientists?" he asked. "Some of them," Pete said, "but most are just hobbyists like me. This guy, Joe, is a plumber. This woman, Sarah, is a nurse. This kid, Danny, is still in high school. We just like to build things." The alien spent the next hour looking at Pete's workshop. Besides the gravitational field generator, he had built a small fusion reactor, an anti-gravity lifting device, and something he called a quantum wrench that could repair metal at the molecular level. "I just build stuff I think might be useful," Pete explained, "The fusion reactor powers my whole house now. The anti-gravity thing helps me move heavy equipment. The quantum wrench is great for fixing cars. None of these devices should have been possible for a civilian to build." Each one represented technology that the Galactic Senate considered restricted to military use only. But Pete had built them all in his garage, using information that the human government had shared freely with everyone. Their next stop was Austin, Texas, where they visited a makerspace run by a group of retired people. The makerspace was a large warehouse filled with 3D printers, laser cutters, and other fabrication equipment. About 30 people were working on various projects. Ruth Adams, the retired librarian they had heard about during the asteroid exercise, was leading a project to build better energy storage systems. She showed them around the workshop with obvious pride. "We started this project because we wanted to make sure our community center never lost power during storms," Ruth explained. "But it turns out the principles work for much more than that." The energy storage system they had built was more efficient than anything the aliens had seen before. It used crystal matrices based on alien technology, but configured in a way that no alien scientist had ever thought of. "How did you discover this configuration?" Commander Thulvos asked. "Trial and error, mostly," said an elderly man named Frank, who had been a high school chemistry teacher. "We tried about 50 different arrangements before we found one that worked really well." "But trial and error is inefficient," Lieutenant Crendel said. "Surely you used computer simulations to model the different configurations first?" "Oh, we did that too," said a woman named Betty, who had been an accountant before retiring. "I learned how to use simulation software by watching online tutorials. It's not that hard once you get the hang of it." The aliens discovered that the makerspace was connected to hundreds of similar workshops around the world. They shared designs, collaborated on projects, and helped each other solve technical problems. When someone in Austin invented something useful, people in Tokyo and London and São Paulo would be building improved versions within days. "It's like having a global research team," Ruth explained, "except nobody is in charge and everyone participates voluntarily." This concept was completely foreign to the aliens. In their societies, research teams were organized by governments or large corporations. There were clear hierarchies, official procedures, and restricted access to information. The idea that thousands of people could collaborate effectively without any central organization was unprecedented. The tour continued to a community college in Denver, where students were working on projects that would have been considered advanced research in most alien civilizations. A group of second-year students had built a functioning shield generator using principles from alien defensive technology. "We're calling it the bubble shield," explained student leader Danny Martinez. "It creates a protective energy field around anything you want to protect. We built it for our engineering class final project." The shield generator was crude compared to military-grade equipment, but it worked perfectly. More importantly, the students had shared their design online, where it had been downloaded and improved by thousands of other people. "Aren't you concerned about security?" Commander Thulvos asked the instructor, Professor Lisa Wang. "Security? From what?" Professor Wang replied. "Knowledge is meant to be shared. The more people who understand these principles, the better our society becomes." This philosophy was the opposite of everything the aliens believed about technology and knowledge. In their worlds, advanced technology was carefully controlled to prevent it from being misused. Only trusted individuals with proper clearance were allowed to work with dangerous or powerful devices. But the humans seemed to believe that sharing knowledge made everyone safer, not more dangerous. They trusted their fellow citizens to use technology responsibly, and they believed that open collaboration led to better innovations than secret research. As the day ended, Commander Thulvos and Lieutenant Krendel returned to their ship. They had seen enough to know that their understanding of human capabilities was completely wrong. "Sir," Lieutenant Krendel said as they reviewed the day's data, "these humans have essentially democratized advanced technology. Any individual with curiosity and basic tools can access and improve upon our most sophisticated innovations." "It's worse than that," Commander Thulvos replied. "They're not just accessing our technology. They're improving it. That gravitational field generator was more efficient than our military-grade versions. The energy storage system was more elegant than anything our engineers had developed." The two aliens sat in silence for a moment, processing the implications of what they had seen. "What do we tell the Senate?" Lieutenant Krendel asked. Commander Thulvos looked out the window at the Earth below. Somewhere down there, in garages and workshops and community centers, ordinary humans were casually surpassing the technological achievements of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "I'm not sure they would believe us," he said. The final test was supposed to be simple. Commander Thulvos had designed it himself to prove that trained military forces were always superior to civilian populations. The scenario was a simulated alien invasion of Chicago, and only Earth's military was supposed to respond. "This will demonstrate the importance of proper military training," Commander Thulvos explained to General Hayes. "Civilians should evacuate while professional soldiers handle the threat." General Hayes nodded, but she had a worried expression on her face. "Sir, you should know that word of this exercise has already spread on social media. People are talking about it." "That is acceptable," the alien commander replied. "Civilians can observe from a safe distance, but they must not interfere with military operations." What Commander Thulvos did not understand was that humans did not see the exercise as something to watch from a distance. They saw it as a challenge, a puzzle to solve, and an opportunity to help protect their city. Maria Rodriguez was sitting in her office at the Chicago Department of Transportation when she heard about the simulation. As a traffic engineer, she knew the city's infrastructure better than almost anyone. She also knew that if aliens were really invading, traffic patterns would be crucial for both defense and evacuation. "This is interesting," Maria said to her coworker Janet. "If I were defending the city, I would want to control where the invaders could go." Maria opened her computer and started working on traffic light modifications that could channel alien vehicles into specific areas. She had done similar work for parades and emergency situations, but this was more complex. She needed to think in 3 dimensions, considering not just roads, but also possible air routes. Meanwhile, across the city, college student Danny Kim was meeting with his parkour group on the roof of a downtown building. Danny and his friends spent their free time jumping between buildings, climbing walls, and navigating the city's vertical landscape. If there were really aliens attacking, Danny said to his friends, the military would need good intelligence about what was happening. We could help with that. The parkour group had always communicated using hand signals and mobile phones while moving across rooftops. They knew every building, every alley, and every possible path through the city from above. Danny realized that they could create a communication network that would be very hard for invaders to detect or stop at the same time. Carlos Mendez was preparing his food truck for the day's work. Carlos had served in the Army for 4 years before starting his business, and he had learned about mobile command operations. When he heard about the exercise, he started thinking about how his truck could be useful. A food truck is basically a mobile command center, Carlos explained to his wife Elena. It has power, communications, and mobility. If I modify it a little, it could coordinate civilian activities. Carlos spent the morning installing additional radio equipment and computer systems in his truck. He also stocked it with supplies that might be useful during an emergency. His truck was already equipped to serve hundreds of people food quickly, but now it could also serve as a coordination hub. On the alien ship, Lieutenant Crundle was monitoring Chicago's communication networks. He was seeing the same pattern they had noticed during the asteroid exercise. Thousands of civilians were discussing the invasion simulation and making plans to participate. "Sir," he said to Commander Thulvos, "the humans are doing it again. Their civilian population is organizing for military action." "That is impossible," Commander Thulvos replied. "Civilians do not have military training. They cannot effectively participate in combat operations." But the evidence was clear. All across Chicago, ordinary people were preparing to help defend their city. They were not waiting for orders from the government or permission from the military. They were organizing themselves through social media, text messages, and word of mouth. Retired librarian Helen Wright had spent the morning at the Chicago Public Library, researching everything she could find about alien military tactics. She had gathered a team of librarians and library volunteers to create an intelligence analysis center. "Information is power," Helen told her team. "If we can understand how the aliens think and operate, we can predict their moves and help our defenders respond more effectively." The library team had access to vast databases of information, and they knew how to find and organize knowledge. Quickly, they were treating the invasion simulation like a massive research project, and they were very good at research. When the exercise began, the alien simulation forces entered Chicago expecting to face only the city's military defenders. Instead, they found themselves dealing with a complex web of civilian resistance that they had never encountered before. The traffic lights began changing in patterns that created bottlenecks and detours, forcing the alien vehicles into areas where they could be more easily targeted. The traffic modifications were so subtle that it took the aliens several minutes to realize they were being deliberately routed. "Who is controlling your traffic management system?" Commander Thulvos asked General Hayes over the communication link. "That would be Maria Rodriguez from the City Transportation Department," General Hayes replied. "She's coordinating with our military planners to optimize vehicle flow." "But she is a civilian," Commander Thulvos protested. "Yes, sir, but she knows the city better than anyone." Meanwhile, Danny Kim and his parkour friends were moving across the rooftops, providing real-time intelligence about alien movements. They could see things from angles that ground-based observers missed, and they could move quickly between observation points. 3 alien vehicles heading north on State Street, Danny reported into his headset. "They're moving in formation, but there's a gap in their coverage 2 blocks ahead." This information was being relayed to Carlos Mendez in his modified food truck, which had become an unofficial civilian command center. Carlos was coordinating between the parkour observers, the traffic control system, and various other civilian groups that had joined the exercise. "Maria, can you adjust the lights to slow them down at the intersection?" Carlos asked over the radio. "Already on it," Maria replied. "They'll hit a red light sequence that will keep them stopped for about 90 seconds. The alien simulation. Forces were becoming increasingly frustrated. Their advanced tactical systems were designed to counter traditional military responses, but the humans were using unconventional methods that did not fit any known patterns. At the library, Helen Wright's research team had been analyzing the aliens' behavior and had identified several patterns in their movement and communication. They were sharing this analysis with the military and civilian defenders in real time. "The aliens always probe defensive positions in groups of 3, Helen reported, "and they seem to have trouble adapting when their initial plans don't work." This intelligence was invaluable for the defenders, who could now predict and counter the aliens' moves more effectively. But the moment that truly shocked the alien observers came when the civilian defenders began demonstrating technological capabilities that should not have existed. A group of community college Students had arrived at the exercise with working shield generators based on the designs they had shared online. The shields were not military grade, but they were functional and effective against the simulated alien weapons. How did they obtain shield technology? Commander Thulvas demanded. They built it themselves, General Hayes explained. The plans are available online. Anyone can download them and build their own shield generator. Even more surprising was the appearance of an electronics club that had created jamming devices capable of disrupting the aliens' communication systems. Jammers were built from common electronic components and were being operated by teenagers and retirees. Sir, Lieutenant Krendel reported with obvious panic in his voice. The humans have neutralized our communication advantages. Our simulated forces are operating blind. Commander Thulvas watched in growing horror as the civilian population of Chicago demonstrated capabilities that matched or exceeded those of professional military forces. They were not just supporting the official military response, they were leading it. The exercise had become a demonstration of distributed intelligence and rapid adaptation. Every time the alien simulation forces tried a new tactic, the civilian defenders found a counter-response within minutes. They were learning, adapting, and innovating in real time. This is not possible, Commander Thulvas said to himself. Civilians cannot coordinate complex military operations without centralized command structures. But the evidence was undeniable. The humans were doing exactly that. They were coordinating through informal networks, making decisions collectively, and implementing solutions faster than any military hierarchy could manage. The final straw came when the civilian defenders began capturing alien simulation vehicles, using improvised weapons and tactics that had been developed on the spot. A group of construction workers had modified their equipment to create effective anti-vehicle weapons. A team of mechanics had built capture devices that could disable alien technology. General Hayes, Commander Thulvas said quietly, please terminate this exercise immediately. Sir, we haven't reached the scheduled endpoint, General Hayes replied. Terminate it now, the alien commander repeated. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Senate was called 48 hours after Commander Thulvas returned from Earth. The huge meeting chamber was filled with representatives from 12 different species, and the mood was tense. Nobody spoke. As Commander Thulvas walked to the center of the room, "Honored Senators," he began, his voice lacking its usual confidence, "we have made a serious mistake in our evaluation of the human species." Senator Vextar, who had been so dismissive of humans just weeks earlier, leaned forward in his chair. His blue skin had lost some of its brightness, and his spots were shifting colors rapidly, which meant he was nervous. "Surely you are not suggesting that these primitive humans are a threat to our Confederation," Senator Vextar said, but his voice did not sound as certain as his words. "Commander," Thulvas activated a holographic display that showed data from Veta. His time on Earth. Numbers, charts, and video clips filled the air above the senators' heads. "I am suggesting that they are not primitive at all," he said. "In fact, they may be the most advanced species we have ever encountered, but their advancement is distributed in a way we have never seen before." The commander explained what he had witnessed during the 3 tests. He told them about the asteroid exercise where thousands of civilians had contributed solutions to a complex space problem. He described the garage workshops, where ordinary people built technology that surpassed the best efforts of galactic military research teams. "This is impossible," interrupted Senator Cawthron, waving his tentacles in agitation. "Advanced technology requires years of specialized training and expensive equipment. Civilians cannot simply build gravitational field generators in their homes." "And yet they do," Commander Thulvas replied. "I have seen it with my own eyes. I have recordings and sensor data to prove it." The holographic display showed Pete Johnson's garage workshop, with its improvised gravitational field generator humming in the corner. It showed the community college students with their shield generators. It showed the retired librarians analyzing alien tactical patterns with the skill of professional intelligence analysts. Lieutenant Krendel stepped forward to add his own observations. Honored senators, the humans have created something we have never seen before. They have democratized advanced knowledge. Every individual has access to the same technical information that we restrict to our most elite scientists and engineers. But that would lead to chaos, Senator Vextar protested. If everyone has access to dangerous technology, surely there would be accidents and misuse. That is what we expected, Lieutenant Krendel agreed. But instead, they use their distributed knowledge to solve problems more effectively than any centralized system we have observed. The display showed the Chicago invasion simulation, where civilian defenders had outperformed professional military forces using improvised tactics and homemade equipment. The senators watched in silence as traffic engineers controlled alien movements, students operated shield generators, and retirees provided intelligence analysis. Senator Cothron made a sound like steam escaping from a pipe, which was how his species expressed its belief. This cannot be accurate. Civilians do not have military training. They cannot coordinate complex operations without central command. They do not use central command, Commander Thalvos explained. They coordinate through informal networks, share information freely, and make collective decisions in real time. It is more flexible and adaptive than any military hierarchy we know. The alien senators were struggling to understand what they were seeing. In every species they knew, society was organized in clear hierarchies. Important knowledge was controlled by governments and military organizations. Advanced technology was restricted to trained specialists. But humans seem to have evolved a completely different approach. They shared knowledge freely, trusted their citizens with dangerous technology, and relied on voluntary cooperation rather than official authority. What are their actual military capabilities? Asked Senator Mordun of the Hegemony, whose species was known for their warrior culture. If their civilians can do this, what about their trained soldiers? Commander Thulvas and Lieutenant Krendel looked at each other uncomfortably. With respect, Senator, we believe we have been asking the wrong question, Lieutenant Krendel said. What do you mean? The humans do not separate military and civilian capabilities the way we do, Commander Thulvas explained. Every human is potentially both. Their entire population is, in effect, a military force that does not know it is a military force. This statement caused an uproar in the chamber. Several senators began speaking at once, their various languages creating a chaos of sound until the translation devices caught up. Are you saying that every human civilian is equivalent to one of our trained soldiers? Senator Vextar asked when the noise died down. I am saying that every human civilian has the potential to become more capable than our trained soldiers. Commander Thulvas replied, they have access to the same knowledge, the same technology, and the same training resources. The only difference is that they choose whether or not to use these capabilities. The holographic display showed examples of human civilian achievements. Jake Morrison, the mechanic who had improved alien engine designs in his spare time. Dr. Amy Chun, the geology professor who had solved mineral engineering problems that alien scientists had struggled with for years. Bob Taylor, the retired engineer, who had designed better asteroid deflection systems in his garage. These are not isolated cases, Lieutenant Krendel added. We estimate that millions of humans are capable of similar achievements. They have created a society where advanced knowledge and capability are available to anyone who wants to learn. Senator Morden leaned back in his chair, his warrior instincts telling him that this was a threat unlike any his species had ever faced. What do you recommend, Commander? Immediate full membership in the Galactic Confederation, Commander Thulvas said without hesitation. With all associated protections, privileges, and voting rights. Full membership? Senator Vextar's spots were now flashing bright red, which meant he was alarmed. But they are a new species. Full membership is reserved for civilizations that have proven themselves over centuries. They have proven themselves, Commander. Thulvas replied firmly. They have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our own in multiple areas. We cannot afford to treat them as anything less than equals. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some senators argued that the humans should be monitored closely, perhaps even restricted in their access to certain technologies. Others suggested that the human approach to knowledge sharing might be something other species could learn from. But Commander Thulvas had one more piece of information that ended all debate. There is something else you should know, he said. During a quiet moment, the humans are not finished developing. Everything we observed represents their current baseline, not their maximum potential. He activated a new section of the holographic display, showing internet forums and social media, posts from Earth. Humans were already discussing improvements to the technologies they had demonstrated. They were sharing new ideas, proposing collaborations, and planning projects that would have been impossible just months earlier. They learn from every interaction, Commander Thulvas explained. Our evaluation visits have given them new information about galactic technology and capabilities. They are already incorporating this knowledge into their own innovations. What are you saying? Senator Cawthron asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. I am saying that they are getting better, faster than we thought possible. By the time we finish debating their membership status, they may have surpassed us in areas we have not even considered yet. The silence in the chamber was profound. Finally, Senator Vextar spoke in a much more humble tone than anyone had ever heard from him before. What about their intentions toward us? If they are so capable, how do we know they will not become a threat? Commander Thulvas smiled for the first time since returning from Earth. Because we have already seen their intentions. When faced with simulated threats, they focused on defense and protection. When given access to our technology, they used it to improve their own society. When presented with complex problems, they worked together to find solutions. They could have used their capabilities to build weapons or plan conquests, Lieutenant Crandall added. Instead, they built better energy systems for senior centers and improved traffic management for their cities. The vote for human membership was unanimous, though some senators voted more reluctantly than others. As the session concluded, Senator Vextar was heard muttering to his aide, "Let us hope they continue to find us useful as allies." But the real impact of the Senate's realization was not political. It was philosophical. For the first time in galactic history, the established powers had encountered a species that challenged their fundamental assumptions about intelligence, organization, and capability. Back on Earth, Pete Johnson was in his garage working on his latest project. He had heard that the aliens were interested in human engineering, so he was building something he hoped they would find useful. It was a small device that could translate between any two languages in real time, using principles he had learned from S.